All right, everybody in ACN, you ready to dig in? Like, right here, right in our backyard, we had this incredible civilization, and it's like completely lost, but not really, because we're going to find it. And we've got some pretty awesome help, right? We've got this presentation from the Louisiana Division of Archaeology. It's called Poverty Point PowerPoint 2016. Pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, gets right to the point.
So basically, it tells us everything archaeologists have found about the Poverty Point culture. I mean, this was a pretty big deal in North America. We're talking like 1700 BC to 1100 BC.
Oh, yeah. That's a long, long time ago.
It really is.
And, what we want to do is, like, pull out the coolest, most interesting stuff from this presentation. So you'd be like, wow, who were these people, How did they live and what makes them so special, even today?
Okay, so first things first, let's get our bearings straight. The Poverty Point site, that's like the heart of this whole thing, right? And the presentation, since it's from the Louisiana Division of Archaeology, focuses specifically on what's been found here in Louisiana.
Yeah, makes sense. And you see these aerial views of the site, from around 1200 BC.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty mind-blowing. It's massive. It's almost like a stadium,
Yeah.
And they have these things called concentric earthen ridges. There are 6 of them.
Concentric, so they're like in a circle.
Yeah, they're like rings almost. But here's the thing. They're not perfect circles,
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're C-shaped. It's like someone took a giant horseshoe and stamped it on the earth.
A horseshoe, huh? I mean, I wonder why they made them C-shaped. Do you think there was like a reason?
Yeah, there must have been. I mean, this is deliberate, right? So maybe it was oriented towards something important, like a star or something.
Oh, like an astronomical event?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was for rituals, who knows? But inside that C shape, you have this big open plaza.
So like a central gathering place?
Yeah, exactly. And then scattered around the whole site, you've got these mounds, these huge mounds. Mound A is like the star of the show. It's massive. It just dominates the landscape. Wow, I bet that was a sight to see.
Oh, yeah. It was clearly a big deal. But there are other mounds, too, There's mound B, C, E, and F, so there's a whole bunch of them, right?
Right.
But just think about it. 6 giant C-shaped ridges, this huge plaza, and then all these mounds. I mean, how did they even build all of this?
Seriously, the scale of it, that must have taken so much work. I mean, this wasn't like a weekend project.
No way. It makes you wonder how they got organized. Who was in charge? How did they move all that earth? And it wasn't just random piles of dirt. These structures were engineered, planned out.
That's what blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, we usually think of hunter-gatherer societies as, pretty simple. But this is anything but.
Yeah, and the presentation actually gives us some perspective on this. So we're talking about a time when, the Shang dynasty was just getting started in China.
No way, really.
Yeah, and Tutankhamun, King Tut, he was ruling Egypt. And the first Olympic Games in Greece. This was all happening at the same time as Poverty Point was flourishing right here in Louisiana.
Whoa, so they were part of, like, a global network of civilizations, basically. That really puts things in perspective,
Right. It shows that important stuff was happening all over the world back then. And Poverty Point, well, that's our example right here in our own backyard. So let's talk about who these people actually were. The presentation calls them hunter-gatherers, right?
Right.
And when you hear that, it's easy to think, okay, pretty basic, right? Like living off the land, that kind of thing. But what we're seeing at Poverty Point, it's not simple at all. It's actually super complex.
It really is. I mean, just because they relied on hunting and gathering doesn't mean they were, primitive or whatever. Their tools, the way their settlement was laid out, the fact that they traded over long distances, all of that points to a pretty sophisticated society.
I see what you're saying. Like they were more than just surviving, right? They were thriving.
Exactly. And, they had some pretty clever tools for hunting, for example. They used something called an etlat.
Atlatl, what's that?
It's basically a spear thrower. Like it gives you way more power and range when you're throwing a spear.
Oh, I see. So they had that technology back then, huh?
They did, yeah. The presentation even has illustrations of how it worked, which is pretty cool. And get this, they also used weights, like special weights attached to the atla, to make their spears even more powerful and accurate.
So they were really maximizing their hunting skills.
Oh, yeah. And of course, we're in Louisiana with all the rivers and bayous, so fishing would have been super important, right?
Oh, definitely.
And they were good at it, too. They used cast nets, and just like with their spears, they had these weights that helped them fish more effectively.
So they really knew how to use the resources around them, both on land and in the water. They weren't just, taking what they could get. They were actually mastering their environment.
That's a great way to put it. They were masters of their environment. But what's really interesting is that they didn't just use what was right here at Poverty Point, you know?
Oh, you mean the trading thing?
Yeah, exactly. There's evidence that they traveled and traded across huge distances.
This is where it gets really cool, especially for us in Ashley County now. There's this map in the presentation, and it shows where all the different stones and ores found at Poverty Point came from. And it's amazing. They were getting stuff from all over the place.
Yeah, it wasn't just local materials.
Like, not even close. We're talking Mill Creek Chert, which came all the way from Illinois, and Galena, that came from Missouri.
Wow.
And then we've got, hematite, novaculite, and quartz crystal, all from Arkansas, which isn't too far from us. And then, get this, they even had steatite from the Appalachian Mountains.
The Appalachians. That's incredible.
It really is. So what does this tell us?
Well, it means they had trade routes and relationships that stretched for hundreds of miles, maybe even further.
Exactly. It wasn't just random chance that they had all these materials. It was organized, planned out. They had to have some kind of social structure in place to make all of that happen.
Definitely. And they didn't just hoard all those raw materials. They were skilled craftspeople. They knew how to work with stone.
Right, like the groundstone technology.
Exactly. They'd grind and polish the stone to shape it, not just chip away at it.
And the presentation gives us some great examples of what they made. Right?
Yeah, like those gorgets.
Gorgets.
They're these polished stone pendants, possibly worn for decoration, or maybe they had some kind of ceremonial purpose. We're not totally sure.
Like a status symbol, maybe?
Could be. And then there are the plummets.
Plummets. What are those?
Well, remember how we talked about the weights they use for fishing nets? Those were probably plummets. Or maybe they were used for something else entirely, like an early form of measurement. Who knows?
Oh, interesting. So like a multi-purpose tool.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, you have the celts. Those were basically stone axe heads, essential for working with wood. So they had a whole toolkit of ground stone objects, all carefully crafted.
It's amazing what they could do back then, without all the technology we have today.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it gets even more impressive. They also made these tiny stone tools called microliths. Micro meaning small, obviously. These things are tiny, but they're so precisely made.
So like miniature tools.
Yeah. They had things like microdrills and microblades. And to create these, they needed a very high level of skill.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. What would they have used them for?
Well, probably for very specific, delicate tasks. But we're not entirely sure about all the details.
Okay, so now for the big mystery. We have to talk about the Poverty Point objects, or PPOs. Have you seen pictures of these things?
I have, yeah. They're those baked clay objects, right?
Yes. They come in all sorts of crazy shapes, like spheres, cylinders, even some that look like, biscuits. And the thing is, archaeologists still don't know exactly what they were used for. Isn't that crazy?
It's one of the big unanswered questions about Poverty Point.
I know, it's so intriguing. There are lots of theories, of course.
Oh, yeah, like...
Well, one idea is that they were used for cooking. They retain heat really well, so you could heat them up in a fire and then drop them in a pot of water to boil food. Sort of like ancient hot rocks, I guess.
Oh, that's interesting.
But there are other theories, too, like maybe they had a symbolic meaning representing different groups or clans, or maybe they were some kind of counting system, a way to keep records.
I wonder which theory is right, or if any of them are.
Who knows? Maybe it's something we haven't even thought of yet. But it's clear that these PPOs were important to them, whatever they were used for. But it's not just about the practical stuff, right? They also had art.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like those beautiful owl pendants.
You mean the red jasper ones?
Yeah, those. Red jasper isn't found anywhere near Poverty Point, so they had to trade for it.
So it was valuable to them, and the fact that they carved these tiny detail owl shapes out of it, it's pretty impressive.
It really is. Their craftsmanship was amazing.
And then there are the clay figures they found, little sculptures of animals, maybe even people.
Oh, right. Those are interesting. What do you think they represent?
It's hard to say for sure, but they probably had some kind of symbolic or ritualistic meaning.
Maybe they tell us something about their beliefs or stories.
Exactly. It's like a window into their world, And they also made bigger things out of stone, like bowls.
Right, so they clearly knew how to work with stone on different scales, from tiny microliths to larger bowls.
So stepping back a bit, when we think about everything we've learned from this presentation, what are the big takeaways about the Poverty Point culture, especially for us here in Ashley County now?
Well, the presentation really highlights a few key things. First, Their social organization must have been incredibly complex. I mean, you don't build those massive earthworks without a lot of coordination and leadership.
Right. It had to be a group effort, and a very organized one at that.
Exactly. And second, their ability to plan was incredible. Just look at the layout of the site. It wasn't random. It was carefully designed.
It makes you wonder how they communicated all of that, without any written language.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then, of course, there's the trade network. It shows they were connected to a huge area, sharing goods and ideas across vast distances.
I mean, they're basically trading from Illinois to the Appalachians. That's incredible.
And finally, their hunting and gathering techniques. They were clearly very skilled. They weren't just surviving, they were flourishing. They had figured out how to make the most of their environment.
So they were really successful, at least for a while. It's just mind-blowing to think that this was all happening right here where we live thousands of years ago. They weren't just a small, isolated group. They were builders, traders, artists, craftspeople. This presentation from the Louisiana Division of Archaeology really gives us a glimpse into a fascinating and important part of our local history.
It really does. And it leaves you with some big questions, too. Like, if you think about the scale of those earthworks and the vastness of that trade network, what kind of social structure did they have? Who were their leaders? How did they manage to coordinate all of this as hunter-gatherers? It really makes you think.
Yeah, it's like there's so much we still don't know. But what we do know is pretty amazing, and it's all right here, just waiting to be discovered.
Makes you wonder what else is out there, buried beneath our feet, just waiting for us to uncover it.
Exactly. So for everyone in ACN, take a look around. Our history is richer than we might think. You never know what you might find if you start digging. See ya next time.